Okay, so getting back into our coverage over the X-Men, we do pick up with X-Force issue number 43. Now, here's the thing about this issue alone. It is technically part of Legion Quest, and let me explain. You see, when it came to Legion Quest, it was a whole idea of Legion being able to go back in time to kill off Magneto, because he believed if Magneto was not around, then Charles Xavier should have the ability to achieve his lifelong goal, mutants and humans being able to live together in harmony. But there was a problem with that plan because you had Legion kill off Charles Xavier on accident. And so with the death of Charles Xavier, it had brought in a brand new world. And of course, that world is called Age of Apocalypse. But the problem was that one singular event had to affect all the different X books that were coming out in that time period. Excalibur, X-Factor, X-Force, Wolverine, Cable, and the list goes on. But the thing was, every single X book had to end the same type of way, where you had our heroes going through some type of situation, but then at the very end of that situation, at the very end of the book, you had our heroes get frozen. And the reason why, because the old timeline was being erased. A brand new timeline was coming into the picture. The Age of Apocalypse timeline was being brought into the picture now. And so at the end of every single book, you had our heroes just being frozen in time, like this one right here. Now, there was one more problem that came up when it came to the whole idea of all the X books ending at the same exact time, because in some of the X books, you had some of the writers begin the whole idea of giving you a brand new storyline. But the problem was that you'll get one chapter, and then out of nowhere, your book had to stop for 4 to 5 months. And the reason why? Because again, Age of Apocalypse had to happen first. Once that storyline was done, then your X books were able to resume where they had left off at. The same thing goes for X-Force. This issue alone gives us a brand new storyline, but then at the very end, we gotta stop because we gotta jump over to Age of Apocalypse, and then we'll come back 4 or 5 months later. And so now we are able to get into the opening pages for today's storyline. And so with the opening pages, we kind of get a call back to a previous story that we had covered. In that story, you had X-Force fighting against another group of characters known as the Mutant Liberation Front. Now, that group right there, they are a terrorist group, but they had kidnapped Peter Gyrich in that previous storyline. Now, you did have X-Force being able to save his life, but the problem was that when it came to Sunspot, we kind of find out that his powers did not work properly around another character known as Locus. And so with those two characters being nearby one another, there was some kind of interference. And then out of nowhere, they had just disappeared, teleported away with a few members of the MLF group. And so we're kind of left to believe that Sunspot is officially gone somewhere else across the world. But the thing is, this storyline tells us that right there is not the case at all. That yes, he did teleport away somewhere else in the world, but also possibly to a different point in time. But when it comes to Cannonball and also Siren, what they're trying to do is to use their version of Cerebro to hopefully find Sunspot. And the thing is, they do find him, but he does appear to be at Antarctica. But now we have to jump over to Boom Boom. Now for Boom Boom, her storyline in this issue is really more of her trying to help out a young girl get off the streets, because you have Boom Boom walking around the area. And while doing that, she sees a lot of street workers, but one of them looks like she's 17 years old, underage, but unfortunately she's out in the streets. Now you do have somebody else there who's trying their best to get the girl off the streets, to get her some kind of help, but the girl's afraid of her pimp finding out about her disappearing. And so you have the girls say no to their help. And so for Boom Boom, she's kind of like, hey, I hate the idea of seeing her out there on the streets. Let me go ahead and try my best to help convince her to get off the streets and get some help. And really, that is a great storyline for me, seeing Boom Boom going out of her way to help out other people. But we then jump over to Rictor and also Shatterstar. Now, those two characters, they're in the club just partying on, really more Rictor. For Shatterstar, he's having a hard time understanding what to do exactly in the club. Like, he's kind of like, why do y'all come here to just dance and party for? Like, what is the actual purpose of this club? Now, you do have a young girl walk up on him, trying her best to get his attention and dance with him. But unfortunately, he freaks out because this is his first experience with a woman in this type of situation. And so he freaks out and runs away. And so for Rictor, he realized, okay, there's something going on with Shatterstar. Let me go ahead and be that friend to figure out what in the world is going on here. But now we have to jump back over to X-Force. Now, when we do, it's really more Cannonball and also Siren calling up Cable and also Domino. Now, this is the point where I can say, like, yes, it's part of Legion Quest, because in the main storyline for this big, huge event, you had Cable and Domino with the X-Men trying their best to get in contact with the X-Men who are trapped in the past with Legion. And so when you have Cannonball and Siren call up Cable and Domino, they say, hey, Cable, we need your help. We found Sunspot. But Cable said, dude, listen, I would love the idea to help out and get Sunspot back home. But the problem is right now, I can't do that because right now I'm trying my best to save the entire world, or really all time across the entire universe. And so you have Cannonball realize, okay, you know what? You got some big things going on. We can handle this on our own. But then out of nowhere, there's a huge bright light. And that bright light is because of Locus. But here's the thing, because Locus, like Sunspot, been gone for a while. And matter of fact, it's X-Force telling her, like, you and him been gone for 6 months. Now for Locus, it was a whole lot longer because apparently her and Sunspot, they were lost in time. But also it's her saying like, hey, listen, we got to find Sunspot and we got to stop him now. Now you do have X-Force tell her like, hey, we already have his location. And so for Locus, that is great. They have to leave now. But before they are able to go stop Sunspot, they got to make a few more stops on the way. But now we are able to jump over to Boom Boom. Now for Boom Boom, she's still out there trying her best to help out that young girl who unfortunately is working the streets. And so you have Boom Boom trying her best to convince the young girl to go out there and get some help. But the thing is, while trying to talk to the girl, you didn't have X-Force appear alongside with Locus saying like, hey, listen, we found Sunspot. We got to go right now. So let's head out. And for Boom Boom, she realized she has no choice here. She goes ahead and leave with X-Force to go deal with the Sunspot problem. Now, when we jump over to Rictor and Shatterstar, it's really more of the book kind of reminding us that for Shatterstar, he's not from this world. He's from Mojoverse. So the whole idea of being able to get close to a woman like that is a whole new thing for Rictor. Sorry, not Rictor, for Shatterstar. So he has no idea how to truly feel or what to do when it comes to being with a woman like that in the middle of the club. And you have Rictor trying his best to be there for Shatterstar, but you didn't have X-Force and Locus arrive as well to say, hey guys, listen, we found Sunspot and we gotta go now. And so for Rictor and Shatterstar, this conversation gotta be put on hold for the time being. But now we have to jump over to the Mutant Liberation Front. And when we do, it's really more of us seeing them right now trying their best to get away from somebody who is attacking them. Now, before we do learn who is attacking them, we have to remember that one of the members of this group is Dani Moonstar. Now, Dani Moonstar was part of the New Mutants. The thing was, when that series had ended, she was put on the back burner for a very long time. But then out of nowhere, she had reappeared and had joined this group right here. So for her old friends, they have no idea why in the world she had joined that group. But either way, her and the rest of her group right now are trying their best to get away from their attacker. And we learn who the attacker is. It's actually Reignfire. Now remember, Reignfire was the one who had brought in a new version of the Mutant Liberation Front. So why in the world right now is he trying to attack his old group? Now for Locus, she says, hey guys, you don't understand who that guy truly is. And so we kind of find out that Reignfire is really Robert DaCosta. Now that is a huge problem because earlier we saw both of them together before Sunspot and Locus had disappeared. So how in the world right now we have Reignfire saying that he is Robert DaCosta? Now, like I said earlier, this issue is part of the whole idea of Legion Quest. So unfortunately, the book ends on the same note as the other books did around this time, where you had our heroes and also Reignfire here get frozen in time. And the reason why, because this timeline is now being removed and a brand new timeline is coming into the picture. And this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.